Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of The 100, as well as the latest episode of The Outpost. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this season finale of The 100, you can skip what I say about this week's episode of The Outpost. But the first thing I want to talk about is the season finale of The 100. A great season finale. A lot of stuff went down this episode. Let's break it down bit by bit. First of all, you have the whole situation with Maddie kind of taking control. I love it. Just everyone being like shocked and ooh and awe. And you know, Tavia walking up with Blaze like, okay, what is she going to do? I was like, I don't think she's going to do it. And it's like, no, she didn't do. I figured as much. It's like, yeah, she bows before Maddie, and this kind of makes everyone, even people who were most likely still on her side, but you know, obviously it confirms to those who want to follow Maddie anyway to be like, hey, when this is all said and done, like, she's the leader now, and so everyone bows before Maddie, which, you know, it's kind of a surreal moment because it's like, holy crap. And once again, we're doing something, like I said, I've talked about it before, like, they're doing, even at this point in the series, still doing interesting things with the whole commander position, because the fact of the matter is that they're doing the whole thing of like she can tap into the memories whenever she wants to. It's not just like she has to be asleep, like, because Gaia teaches her like, hey, close your eyes, my mind is your mind. It's like the phrase she basically has to say, and which is so interesting because, like what I brought up before, like the only commander we've got to know over the course of the series, got to really know a decent amount of time, spend a lot of time with, was Lexa, and even then, like, we never got to see these aspects before. So I like that they're still kind of evolving and showing you like all sides of the commander that we never really got to see. So I thought that's kind of an interesting touch. And so she got the idea that basically the best way to take them out is with one of their guns. And they were like, when the time came, they were waiting for their moment. Like, Bellamy gets one and Echo gets one. Like, they just shoot the cannons, make them explode, and take out, you know, those guarding the valley. Because initially they were like, we had the numbers, we can run through the valley, but Maddie was like, we can't do that again. She didn't want to lead more people to massacre. That wasn't like, it wasn't like self-preservation. It was just kind of like, I don't want more people to die. You see what happened to these people when we went through the gorge. She's like, she wanted a solution that would lead to more of their people being alive. Freaking Murphy, like, kind of going all hero and kind of sacrificing himself, catching 2 bullets for it, but he stays at the front of the vehicle while the bullets are coming in, you know, so. Then when the time came on, because it turns out, you know, Clark doing what she did, like obviously getting deals. And I love that conversation of like, it's hard to say which side you're on because you kind of flip flop a lot. It's like, I guess that's something we have in common, deals. It's like, I guess we are, because it's so interesting because they're kind of like the heads of these situations. It's like, I guess you can almost make the argument Dios is kind of like, I don't know, it's just interesting you see like the parallels between them, but parallels between her and Octavia, but I'll get to that soon enough. But nevertheless, it's like, it makes you wonder if she would have, if it meant for her friends and the people she cares about, especially Maddie, like, I mean, because it's like, I won't let my daughter die, and she points the gun at Dios's stomach and is like, will you? Is what I'm curious about. If the time came, would she have actually done it? I don't know. She wouldn't have wanted to do it, but if it meant protecting the people she loves, you know, Clark's had to make that decision in the past. But you have freaking also that was pretty brutal, like how he forced Raven. It's like, oh yeah, so either you help with the ship or we're gonna like. It looked like it could either do both. It could well, he said lose the leg, so I'm assuming like it's more of a cut rather than a crush. But it looked more like it could crush, but I'm sure it can cut too. But threatening to take Shaw's legs, that's pretty brutal. But being the madman that he is, McCreary literally sets off like a package of helium to come down on them, and his plan is like, well, we can just go up in the ship, and then, you know, that's how we survive as the human race. I'm like, there's so many people out there, not just their people, they're your people too, but maybe his plan was to get their people into the ship too, or maybe his plan was just like, nah, let's get the ship up. And that seemed more like, it's like, no, get the ship up in the air now. So he was going to even leave his people behind to die. So that's, kind of shows you how much and kind of crazy that anyone supported him at any point in time. Luckily, everything was taken care of, and he was removed from the picture. She said, "You will never get to see your child," Clark says, and then we see her kind of stomp his face twice. So I don't know whether that's her killing him or whether they knocked him out and dumped him out anywhere, because that's literally the last scene we see of him. So not unless he's locked up somewhere, but I'm pretty sure like Clark and Dioza had their way. It's most likely he got thrown off the ship or something. I'm chalking it up too. And then there was that moment where you had Maddie willing to kill the inmates, and then Bellamy's like, "No, don't." And I love that moment because he kind of brings it, it kind of all goes a little full circle for him, because it's like, because she's like, they're prisoners, they killed a lot of people, they massacred my people. The fact of the matter is these terrible inmates, they've come here, invaded this world, but it's like, no, like, you can't make the same mistake. Be better than them, be better than us, because we, the 100, were literally the same way. I mean, legitimately, all the kids were prisoners that were locked up anyway, and that were kind of sent off on this kind of suicide mission. But it's like, they came to the ground, they started a war with people that already lived there. It's like, don't make that same mistake. You can break this cycle, because it's literally happened twice now. It happened with them coming to the ground, and then there was also, because they've been in countless wars, like first with the Grounders, then with people at Mount Weather, then continuing with the Grounders, and now with Dioza and her people, So it's kind of like, we have to end this cycle, or we're just going to keep repeating it over and over again. We have to break it, which is very foreshadowing in an interesting manner, but I'll kind of get to that soon enough later on. And so I love that conversation with Clark too, because it's like, no, we leave those inmates behind. Like, they don't get to come on the ship. But then, like, Maddie's like, no, we saved their lives, and then later on they proved that it was worth it, that we did it. Like, they have to prove themselves later on. And it's like, oh, did the commander say you done? She's like, no, Bellamy. And so things are still a little awkward there. You have Monty carrying Murphy back, and Maury being like, I'm not going to leave you behind because you're the man I love. And then, like, the clock is counting down, because like that thing is ready to impact at any moment, and it's like, so we have to get out of here. But Maddie told Bellamy something interesting. She's like, I know you're mad at Clark, she made a mistake, but the fact of it is, how many mistakes have you made? It's like, in that 6 years, Clark called you all the time on the radio. You didn't know that, did you? And then Bellamy kind of looks back at her. You see her kind of look away, because there is a part of her that no matter what happens, she is kind of ashamed that she did that, because it's like, someone that, one of her closest friends, like, she did that to him. And it's just, once again, it's like she was caught in this compromised position because she's trying to do whatever she can to protect her daughter. So there's that rough situation. Then there's the Octavia and Abby situation, because and it almost breaks her heart a little bit, because Octavia is like, why am I forced to be the monster? Eat or die. It's like, you literally forced my hand in that situation. You should take some fault in this too. And she's like, yeah, I am. I do. Because Kane's the one that was like, no, I know it was all like your idea, but it was Octavia who killed those people, not you. And I was wondering what she would do. Like, legitimately, there was a part of my mind, I was like, I hope Abby doesn't kill Octavia. I was like, that would suck. But it's like, no, like, for her, it's like, we can't, I'm not going to, because, I think she admits, like, it wasn't just on Octavia. Octavia never wanted to go down this route. It was kind of Abby that kind of pushed her to it. So it's like, she kind of got the ball rolling to a certain extent, is what I'm guessing Abby's mindset might be about that. But she wasn't willing to leave Kane behind, so they bring him along. So they get there, then it's like, down to the wire. Bellamy, we have to go. It's like, no, I'm not leaving without Maury, Monty, and Murphy. He's like, I can't leave a friend behind again. Not again. And looks at Clark, because that's his biggest regret, is the fact is they didn't wait. That's what she wanted, but still. But I guess you can make the argument, things kind of worked out, because if it wasn't for that, like, Maddie would have been all on her own in that entire time. We wouldn't be kind of where we are. So it's like, there was some good that came from that situation, but then, like, Clark, he's like, do what you got to do, but Clark didn't want to do it because, I guess in her mind too, it's like, I left you behind once before, I won't make that mistake again. Luckily, everyone gets on board, and it's like, yeah. And I love Raven's words being literally, can we leave off a planet that's not on fire? So it turns out, hey, 412 human beings left. Unlike our ancestors, we do know at this point in time that there are no more humans alive. That's referencing both the Grounders as well as those on the Legis 1. So it's like, where the hell do we go from here, Turns out Gaia's okay. She gets to keep her leg. Murphy got the bullets taken out. And seems like Kane's in pretty bad condition. So they're going to put him in cryo because that will keep him in a stable enough condition till they can like really find a means to help with that. Monty's suggesting the algae and stuff like that. But they have to wait 10 years before the ground is stable again before they can come back. So how they handle that? Cryo sleep. But I am getting ahead of myself because there's also that conversation, and I brought it up earlier, like two people who are very similar, Octavia and Dioza, because she's like, yeah, I wasn't invited to the party either because there's a little awkwardness between her and Bellamy. And then Dioza's like, you know what your first mistake was? It's like not killing you the moment you got us out of that bunker. It's like, well, yes, there's that one. But what would the lesson be in that? But also it's like, because you enjoy the power. And it's like, you know what they say? And she didn't say this, but obviously it's implied. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's like, because that was the first time Octavia, and because once again, it's like, it makes sense because Octavia never had power before. That was the first time she was ever in a position like that. And it's like, she loved it. Once again, that's why she did what she did, because she never wanted to give up the power until she was kind of forced to admit, I have to give up the power. So, and Dios is like, oh, I'm not going to blame you. I was exactly the same way. I love the power too. So, and I love the line that comes out of Octavia's mouth. 2 serpents in the garden. Eden never stood a chance. I'm like, oh, that's so good. Because like I said, I love that they made this whole spin about it being like the Garden of Eden. I thought that was kind of like a nice like choice to kind of make that comparison like that. And just to call herself them the 2 serpents, you know, I thought that was so fascinating. Everyone's going into cryo sleep. Octavia talks about the fact that she loves Bellamy and she knows like, oh, maybe, you know, don't make me wait 10 years to hear you say it. And he's like, I do love you. A part of me always will. But it's like, is there a part of you that wants me dead? And he was like, a part of you. Like, it's not his sister, the blood Raina side of him, which that is a question. Like, is that side of her completely gone? Or is, I think so at this point in time, because it cost her so much. Because of that side of her, there are so few people left anyway, but it's crazy. And it's like, oh, Bellamy and Clark waking up. It's like, oh man. It's like, oh wow. I was like, wait, is this really going to work so smoothly? I was like, oh man, it's been 10 years. I'm like, oh wow, this is crazy. But then lo and behold, they meet someone and he's like, oh, hey. I'm like, who the hell are you? Are you somebody's kid? Because I had an inkling. I had this feeling. I was like, somebody's going to stay awake. I thought what was going to be happening is like, oh, they're going to need somebody to stay awake. But they had enough pods for everyone. Like there's like 500 pods or 412 people. But I was like, they're not going to like, I was like, oh, somebody's going to have to stay awake to operate everything. I thought it was going to be Maddie. I thought when Clark woke up, she'd see like an even older Maddie would be the twist. It's like, nope. Because the person who stayed awake and who Jordan is, he's Monty and Harper's kid. Is like, wait, what? Yeah, because it's actually been longer than 10 years. In fact, it's actually been 125 years that they've been asleep. It's like, oh my God. It's like, because I was about to say, oh man, we got another time skip. I was like, that's crazy. And this is hands down probably the biggest time skip I've ever seen in anything. Like, usually time skips are like, even this time skip previous was what, 6 years? This is 125 years. That's insane. And then we find out Monty and Harper stayed awake the entire time. They had a family. They were looking at the whole Earth situation. And it's like that whole thing didn't clear up in 10 years. It was forever screwed over, which sucks because like, I guess a final middle finger from McCreary because it's like, oh, if I can't have this place, no one can. And in fact, no one can, which is crazy. But Monty ends up, you know, him and Harper had this long life. I even love that part of the recording where Harper walks in, it's like, oh, Monty, but he's like, Harper, she's like, but you promised. And she said the recording's happening. She walks in, it's like, oh, that's, but it's so heartbreaking, you know, because Harper died before Monty did too, just because of, you know, her family situation of her heart condition. Well, her condition, family condition that led to it. And it's just kind of like, oh, that sucks, dude. That, you know, they stayed like this for such a long time. It would have been easier just to stay with you guys, but they had to do this because they had to find a way to make sure that everything was okay. They had to make sure that there was a way to keep going forward for their friends, their family. And it sucks, dude. Like, it's so heartbreaking because I was like, Wow, because I didn't see that coming, dude. Like them making that sacrifice like that, because it's like we had a good life, you know. And Monty ends up finding out. He cracks the Allegiance 3 files, and it turns out they were looking for something else. They weren't a mining; they were oil, but they tapped all the oil in on Earth, which is interesting. That's not something you would have never thought about. I was like, once again, kind of messing with the lore even more, because it's like, yeah, you never would have thought about the fact that it's like, oh yeah, like resources being tapped like that on Earth. You never really thought about that. Never crossed my mind, because it's like, oh yeah, Allegiance 1 was sent to do mining on some rocks far away, and it's like, oh yeah, and you never thought, because it's like, oh yeah, they don't have certain resources on Earth, like oil. It never crossed my mind. Maybe it came up before, but I don't remember. But then it's like, they end up finding a new planet, is what Allegiance 3's files were all about, but Monty was like, there were no other future reports after they landed, so we don't know what was waiting for them. And it's like, I hope what Jasper said was wrong. The fact of the matter is, you know, I hope it isn't just us. I hope when we come to this new planet, we can make a new start, you know, that things work out differently like than it did with Earth, you know. Storyline I didn't expect. Once again, they throw your expectation, because you're like, okay, where is everything going? Them landing on a new planet. A planet that has 2 suns, interestingly enough. It's like, holy crap, I didn't know we were going this far out and things. I was like, that's insane. Because to me, it's the same thing as like the whole situation at the end of like season 4, where like, it's like, where did the hell this ship come from? Is it aliens or something? Like, what the hell is this? And it's like, no. We're dealing with humans who are just, you know, who were just off in cryo sleep for like the past 100 years or so. So that's crazy. So I was like, okay, but now it's like, we're on a new planet that might have inhabitants of its own, which is, once again, it's like, hopefully we don't make the same mistake we made before, which is crazy. I also think about too, because it's like, Earth has been this home that they've known, space has been this home for so long, and now we're on this other planet. I'm sure, like, from the outside, it looks like it might be a little bit like Earth. You do see, like, on the planet's surface, there are some storms brewing and stuff, but Clark and Bellamy like tearing up, because like Monty was also like, you know, look after our, you know, him and Harper were like, look after our son, take care of him. And it's just like, dude, that's so heartbreaking, man. It's like, like, I wasn't expecting like seeing characters like that, especially in Monty's case. It's almost like, I know it's not the same, but I think it's almost kind of similar to the whole Jasper situation. But in Jasper's situation, he kind of gave up. They didn't. They had their lives. They had each other. They had their son, and it was for the purpose of making sure that their family and people survived what they did. Kind of, it would have been easy just to get back into the cryopods with him, but it's like, no, like he had to find a solution for everybody. But it's like, Monty's long been gone, Harper's long been gone. It's like, you never got to directly say goodbye to your friends, you know. And it's like, kind of, it gets you all choked up, dude. So it's a little heartbreaking. And then at the very end, it has end of book 1. I was like, wait, what? That's crazy to me to think that, like, this is like, well, I mean, I guess it makes sense, because it's like one book is because I've never read the book, so I don't know how far like the books went about everything, because I assumed everything took place on Earth. I never crossed my mind to think like, oh man, we take place on a different planet. That's insane. So I don't know like how the books break down, because there's like at least a few. I've looked it up before for a video. I don't remember off the top of my head. It was like one on like 4 or 5 100 books, I think. So I don't know whether this covers like, it's supposed to be like, oh, these 5 seasons cover everything that went down in the first book or what, because I do know there are some differences between the books and the TV show, but nevertheless, like any adaptation. So the show is coming back for a 6th season, which I'm so excited about, dude. It's like, what's going to happen, dude? It's like, holy crap, this adventure is going to take a crazy turn, and I'm so curious to see what happens going forward. Like, new planet, potentially might be running into aliens. Like, we might be kicking up the sci-fi angle. They might be the only ones on this planet. There might not be any other living life forms in their regards, because it was an aspect that played a little bit in the earlier seasons of the 100, but I'm curious, will it come back? Like, the mutated life forms came about because of like radiation and stuff like that, but it's like, will anything like that be here? I mean, there's also another angle we have to consider too. The Allegiance 3 never got back in contact with them. Who's to say? Maybe they died, or maybe they found life here too, and they've been trying to survive for the past 100 years or so when they found this place. I mean, that's when Allegiance 1 kind of went quiet 100 years ago. Doesn't mean the same thing for Allegiance 3. So, I mean, who knows? There might be a few straggling survivors to kind of give them the lay of the lands. Because that's the thing. This is a planet they know nothing about. Earth is like, yeah, Earth has had like, well, billions of years, obviously like thousands of like recorded history, sure, but you know, roughly know the lay of the lands. Even though people weren't on Earth for like 100 years, you still know the lay of the lands because it's a planet that has such a long history. Here's a planet you're going into knowing nothing what the environment is like. So it's going to be crazy to see, especially because it's so interesting, because it's something we never fiddled around with too much, is that obviously after Prime Fire, like the situation on Earth kind of got a little wonky. We saw a little bit here and there, but maybe we'll kind of see a lot more of that in on this new planet. Like I said, there's the whole aspect of like it has 2 suns, so that's definitely going to change things up. Like I said, you can see some storms kind of brewing on one side, and we don't know what those storms exactly look like what, you know, the plant life, the animal life potential, like what, like I said, what life forms in general you're going to encounter. And I'm so excited to see what they have in store for season 6. Also, I'm kind of happy too, because that means we get to keep certain characters like Dioza around. That's definitely going to be interesting. Having the strategic mind that she is, that's going to be invaluable going forward. Plus the whole situation with her kid, that's going to be an awkward thing about the whole McCreary thing. Once again, I'm assuming they just kicked him off the ship and left him there to kind of die of his own situation, but maybe they kept it. I wouldn't expect them to, especially when Clark said like, oh, you'll never know your child. So we'll see. Like, it's kind of sad because Clark and Bellamy have to be the ones that kind of bear that weight of knowing this first, which is incredible, because it's like, yeah, it's usually those two who are at the forefront of everything. Like, it's kind of up to them to kind of handle things the most, which is another element I'm curious about too, because it's like, what about them? Because it seems like there might be some inklings of like, oh, we might be dabbling with that more going forward. Because I always thought that was like, since the beginning of the series, and especially when Bellamy and her started getting closer and closer, I was like, is that the direction they're going to take? Like that, I think that's always been kind of like a fan favorite thing of like Bellamy and Clark. I don't know if that'll ever be a thing, especially because of Echo, but just like, maybe that's something we'll tiptoe around this season. Maybe not. I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting going forward. And now moving into this week's episode of The Outpost. A lot of crazy things went down in this episode, so let's break everything down. First of all, you had the whole fact is that Withers is rifling through Gwen's room. It's kind of messed up because he picks the one time he knows everyone will be, or the guards and everyone will be away, and that's kind of like during the ceremony for Kel. So it's like, you pick like kind of a douchey time to do something like that too, and it comes upon some stuff, and it's like, okay, so it gives him ultimately the answers that he needs. I also love the had to call Dano. I was like, stop doing that, stop messing around, because he was like showing her like Gwen's undergarments or something, being like, he's you're such a weirdo, Dano. But nevertheless, who comes in but her servant Lily, and to quiet her so she doesn't tell anybody about what she saw, them being in Gwen's room like that, and he ends up snapping her neck. He says it was by an accident, but it's like, no, which is crazy. Like, I'm skipping around a little bit, but it's like, you're such a hypocrite, because he's talking about he wants Talon dead, but it's like, you act like you're such a lawful man. I mean, he has his ulterior motives behind it, because it's just like, you should be just as blamed for this whole Lily situation as anything that Talon's done, because of the whole Toru situation, which is what started this all in the first place, and all the other dead bodies, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you're just as guilty too, but it's like, no, she has to go first, because it's like, oh, put her all her dirty little secrets out there, but none of your own, because he ends up blackmailing Gwen, because it turns out, and it, like, obviously knew it, said it the entire time, pretty much figured it from the first episode, or at least second episode. Whenever Gwen first popped up, I kind of figured that's what this was all about. But the fact of the matter is, the story gets even more twisted upon that. For one, you find out she had a brother too. That's kind of sad, that died. It turns out that her real name is Rosamond, and she had a friend named Gwen. Gwen, the guy pretend to be her father, was Gwen's actual dad, and he sacrificed his own daughter to make her take the place of the princess. It's like, that's super messed up. That's why his wife hung herself, because it's like, yeah, you literally sacrificed your daughter. To be fair, it's like, oh, you're such a loyal person that you did what your king asked you to do. And the fact is, they never really disputed it. Makes me think, yeah, he was following the king's order, because I think I don't know which one would be more messed up, him offering his daughter up and himself being like, oh yeah, like, no, I'll sacrifice my own daughter on my own behalf to do this, or was it more so his king's orders? It's hard to say which one is worse in that situation. It's kind of like lose-lose situation. But and what he wanted more so than anything is like, oh, I want you to reverse your protection on Talon, which is like, and that's what it even, like I said, Gwen even asked like, why so much? Because it's like, oh, because it's all about like the Prime Order's going to be coming here looking for her because of Magmore's death and stuff like that. And like his main reason is, this is my territory. I don't want anyone messing with it. He even had Garrett putting his blade to his neck because it's like, he's like, you'd kill your own father. And he's like, try me. To protect this secret, he'd be willing to kill you. Even later on, it's like, Garrett will go with you. He's like, no, just for him to get what he wants and then kill me anyway, because he's wanted to kill me for years. It's like, man, that's insane. Like, once again, kind of shows you just how screwed up their relationship is. But the fact is that all this is about killing Talon. And later on, like, Shaq and the others show up, but then he doesn't tell them about Talon being the black blood that they're looking for. Because, like, for one, it's like, you created your own problem. Your curiosity is what set this all in motion, because you were like, oh, I'm gonna bring the bones. Well, you were asking Dredd about one remaining because you could not keep your curiosity. Like, you drew them in. All this talk about, like, that's why he's wanted Talon dead so long, because it's like, if she's dead, Dredd won't have to keep investigating. It's like, oh yeah, here's the dead body, now get the hell out of my territory. It's like, you're such a selfish prick about, like, this is where I reign supreme. Kind of going back to the whole conversation about power that I kind of brought up in the 100. And the fact is that you hold on to this little bit of power and you don't want to let it go for anything. And if the Prime Order's around, they'll be snooping around and they'll kind of run things. So you will lose your power, you will lose your position. And it's like, you're such a selfish prick. And Gwen is forced to rescind her protection. Garrett tries to warn Talon, but not in time. I'm also skipping over the whole thing between her and Jonzo. I thought was pretty neat. How Eleanor saw, like, her laying on Jonzo's table, because she's like, Jonzo's like, oh, you need to find help, because he's like, from one loner to another, you can't handle this on your own. She's like, Jonzo, I can't ask you to get involved, it'll kill you too. He's like, me? God, no, I wasn't talking about me. I need no help in the fight. You need someone who'd be able to help you, a swordsman like Garrett. And he kind of just, you can see him so defeated when he says it and discuss it, like, someone like Garrett. It's so funny. But it's when all is said and done, like, once again, his motives coming out, Withers being like, if you're dead, that means the Prime Order has no reason to be here anymore, because he keeps her around, keeps her secret at first because it makes things easier, because it's like, oh, this is Magmore's killer, and oh man, she's dead, oh well, here she goes, so they leave, it's all about his position. Luckily, Bafnaro shows up in time to free her. It would have been interesting to see what would have, I mean, if it had killed him, it would have led to the whole situation of, like, the notes being dispatched about Gwen actually being Rosamund, so the princess, so it would have complicated things. So it's a good thing, because Talon doesn't want it killing people. She doesn't want to kill people unless she knows they deserve it. Like, even though the asshole he is, that Withers is, he doesn't deserve to die. The Bones people, sure, but not him. Then Garrett walks in and is like, what the hell is that? As the Lakiri, like, Bafnaro, like, goes back into the sewers. I'm like, that's crazy turn of events. And, like, so finally Withers has the answers to both big riddles, the one about Gwen and the one about Talon. So he's kind of like, hey, you fix this situation, then you leave and don't come back for the sake of all of us. And she's going to leave. And Garrett trying to stop her from the situation, because he understands, like, okay, these are the people that killed your entire family, and now you're in a situation. He's like, shouldn't you really deal with this whole Lakiri situation first? But she's like, I kind of get the feeling like I won't be able to control it until I deal with this. She kind of has to free her mind, and this whole them being here would always be on her mind if she tried to go after them first. So it's like, tackle them first, then deal with it. But he's like, yeah, this is some suicidal mission. You're being selfish, and I'd rather you not do the second part being like suicidal and stuff like that, because it's like, oh, he cares about you. Her with the wolf, I like that whole situation. Like, I opened up the portal, it's like, yeah, I honestly don't know how to do that. She's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, your people kept that a very tight secret, so even there's no information about it. But once again, it is a situation. So it doesn't seem like it seems like any black blood potentially could control them, it seems. As long as you spoke, I thought it was like only one specifically at a time, but only one at a time can open the portal to kind of lead to that. But I guess, like, that's why I guess it balances out, because, like, there's probably just as many Lakiri as there are black bloods, because it's like each black blood could control a Lakiri, but it takes one specific one to open a portal, and that's in Talon's family. Her mom passed it on to her before she died. The little thing that went inside of her, like that, is what opens the portal. It doesn't make it so you can control the Lakiri. The black blood in you, the blood of their commander, is what makes you control them. So any black blood could do it. It's just Talon's the only one that can open and close the portal. Nice little details I thought was kind of fascinating. Even hugging him, and even you're kind of like, oh, it's so sad. She doesn't realize she's hugging the man she hates so much. It kind of comes back around, but I'll get to that soon enough. You even had Shek showing up, and that whole conversation between him and the wolf was very fascinating, because it's like, it seems like, because later on something Shek says, he's like, oh, I didn't believe him. So about the whole, like, what Dredd had said to them about controlling monsters. So I guess, like, from the very beginning, he told them about what this was all about. But for them, it's like, you know, in Wolf's eyes, like, he saw it and it made him a believer in everything that I guess Dredd said, and made him believe in, you know, higher calling, higher purpose. Kind of changed his whole perspective. But for them, I guess it's like, crazy dude wants us to kill somebody. A whole bunch of people, man, who cares? The money's good. And now that was the rest of the crew's opinion. And I guess the same thing applies to the wolf as well, which is kind of crazy to think about, like, how much she changed in that time. But for him, it's like, this is so much more than just, like, you know, this is destiny and there's some greater power. But Shek was kind of like, oh, there's no gods involved in this. There's no greater purpose. It's just kind of like, I kill whoever I want, whenever I want. So that's all this is for him, another job. Even upon seeing Bafnaro later on, it didn't really change his mind. It's just kind of like, no, like, it is what it is. So you really can't control monsters. Who cares? I'm ordered to kill you. So, I mean, because he's the one that ended up suffering in the end if he didn't, so. But the wolf decided not to fight. He's like, the wolf died years ago. The blacksmith will be the one that died today, who did one good thing in this world. And for him, that one good thing is one remains. So for him, it's like, he ends up getting stabbed. I assume he's not dead. Last time we saw him, he was bleeding out from the wound, but I don't know if he's dead. I doubt it, just because the way they handle things kind of makes me go, nah, he's still alive, because Talon's got to confront him, because I'm sure that's still going to be wandering in the back of her mind if she doesn't. But I wasn't expecting her to do what she did. She just snuck into, like, slit the throat of one of the bones while he was sleeping, and then had to fight with the other one. That was pretty sick. Garrett helped her out before the dude could kill her, and then she leads the other three down below where Bafnaro is waiting, and he kills the other two nameless dudes. I'm like, oh, you poor bastards. Well, poor bastards, I can't really say that too much, because it was like, you did wipe out a whole village, so it's kind of like, screw you. But before Bafnaro could get to Shek, it became a one-on-one fight. And I was like, yeah, it needs to be Talon who deals the final blow. But during the fight, he's just running his mouth, telling her about Wolf, and then Dredd being the one behind all of this. And then Talon getting him was pretty sick, and he's like, oh, you're pretty good, Black Blood. And she's like, better than you, and deals a final blow to his neck. And I'm like, ugh. And so she got her revenge. To a certain extent, because he did explain, I am just a sword, so she's got to find the man behind the sword, that being Dredd. So now she has a more clearer target. I think I kept letting it slip my mind. She didn't actually know that Dredd was behind all of this. He's the one that orchestrated anything. Like, they're the ones who took the job, sure, but it would have been anyone else who would have taken it, because he would have paid anyone to do it. But it does make you wonder, like, if it wasn't for his meeting with Talon that day, if he hadn't spared her, like, would Wolf even be with the group? Like, would he be with them today with the bones? Because he left them because he had that, like, life-changing moment in that cave when he saw that, like, you know? So I'm curious, would he be down that same, like, would he have left them around that same time, or would he just stay the same? I kind of get the feeling like he wouldn't have. Like, because maybe you could make the argument, maybe that would have been his last job anyway, or maybe it's just like, no, that moment made it his last job. I'd like to think it's more so that, so. But that is the question too, like, what's going to happen? Like, if he is alive, like, Talon's going to want you dead, because it's like Shek had said, like, he put arrows in a lot of your people too, which is like, because I was trying to remember, I actually forgot, like, how many people actually died from arrows in the first episode, like, when we saw Talon's past, but I don't remember, so it's like. It's also interesting too, because you actually think about it, there's that whole grayskin situation. Notice that has not, I mean, it's popped up, sure, but that's kind of been an excuse for a lot of stuff. But it's like, it's not been like the great concern. It's just kind of been like a background thing. I'd assume as the series progresses, that's going to become something more potentially, but it's just kind of interesting. It's like, oh yeah, that's set up. I mean, are there anything else like grayskins out there? Like, they're the only other like creature we've ever met in this series besides the Lakiri, like, which is kind of, you know, considered more demon than anything. I wonder why is that considered a demon and not a grayskin? I mean, I guess because like Lakiris kind of look a little scary. So it's also interesting too because I'm kind of bouncing around, but getting back, I want to finish up what I was saying. It's the fact is that like when Talon and the wolf do talk, I am curious because I was thinking like what was going to happen is that Shek is going to be there, and I thought the wolf was going to be there, and that's how she's going to find out. Like no, like in the sense of like they're there together, and then he tracks him and it's like, oh, wolf, and then she's in the room with him. It's like, wait, you're the wolf? I thought that, but it's like, no. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the end. Will she try and kill him? Will she try and finish him off? I mean, because like I said, he's like, because during this all, he's been the one friend and ally she's had. Like, he's been the only person she can confide into about all this. He's the closest thing, I guess, she has to like almost family, because he explained everything to her, you know? He's been the only one there by her side 100% all the way through this. So I guess maybe that's another reason why she never had to worry about what Jonzo was saying, like, oh, handling is on her own, which she kind of does, but at the same time, it's like, she had support from him, too. So I guess that's where it kind of balances out. But the point I was making before. Okay, so something before I was thinking that I kind of dropped and I got kind of circled back to is like, the fact is, I thought it was kind of interesting that the wolf was talking about the fact is the reason why it just stabbed her and left her was because it's like, no, it still realizes it needs you to help free the rest of its people. But the fact of the matter is, it will try and break you and force you to help it, which is definitely interesting because it's like, oh yeah, because you think that might fall in the category of like Jonzo or Garrett because those are people closest to her. It knows to go after, because that's why it's been doing this entire time with the whole killing people thing, is kind of its way of breaking her, because it knows it bothers her so much, the whole death. It's like, all these people are dying because you won't give me my way. So it's like, oh, that's so interesting to think about. And it's like, it might try to continue forcing her in, because what we see right now, it's locked behind the gate, but we'll see whether or not next episode or not she puts it away. So I thought that's kind of a fascinating thing. But let's not also forget there is the whole situation with Garrett and Gwen. Because in Talon's mind, like, her friendship with Gwen is messed up, because it's like, oh, like, Talon doesn't realize. Because it's interesting, both her and Gwen are in the same situation. The future is so on their shoulders, because Gwen's got her destiny much like Talon's got hers. Because Gwen, like, she has to put the life of other people before, like, the life of many before one. Because no matter what situation between her and Talon, like, if this secret gets out, it compromises the fight that they're trying to go forward with. Which, to be fair, is kind of going hand in hand, actually. Because Talon wants Dredd dead, they want Dredd out of the picture. So, like, once again, they can kind of come together for this situation. Like, they can kind of use each other for this because they want the same thing, which is so sad, because, you know, that's the one friend Talon had. Because for her, it's like, oh, she tried to save her own skin, but, you know, Garrett's like, it's a complicated situation, which it is, you know. And I'm curious to see, will they kind of be able to bounce back from it? Will Gwen ultimately tell Talon her secret about her being a princess and her being the future queen to kind of set things right? Once again, because if that does come out, I think there'll be, you know, maybe when Garrett talks to Talon and finds this out, maybe they can come to a compromise. Like, if we work together, like, this will make things easier for everybody. Like, we both get what we need and want from the situation. That's how I chalk it up, but we'll see. And there's also the other angle of the whole Jonzo and Eleanor situation of, like, yeah, she's still trying to get that Calypso deal going through, which, you know, Jonzo sends out the message. And she's like, dear Calypso, user, blah, 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 blah. And then Jonzo's like, Mom, it's a short note. It's not like a formal letter. So he says what he needs to and sends it off. So because he's like, oh, this could be risky, you know? Because it's like, we have all of this here, so we don't know who we're dealing with, which is the big question. It's like another subplot thing, like, who the hell is running the Calypso? Is it, I kind of kept thinking it might be Dredd, because the fact is, it's such a well-kept secret, and once again, the worm was kind of like, yeah, it's someone, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. So I was like, what the hell is that implying? Like, it has to be someone of some importance. So hopefully we'll find out soon what that's all about. But the fact is, you do wonder what that's going to turn into. Especially because of the way Eleanor describes it. It's like, oh yeah, men's handshake just trying to get a drink. People will sell their children just to get some of that, like, green powder, which is like, that's crazy. I guess it's like this world's version of just any addictive drug, I guess, which is like crazy to think of, but it does make you wonder what that's all about. I guess maybe we'll find out that there's a little secret behind that green powder, being that there's more to it than what we think. Maybe it's ingredients. Also, who's behind it. A lot of interesting things. I'm very interested to see how this all handles going forward, like what happens. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good